Welcome, everyone, to the Creator Spotlight here on FightfulOverbooked.com. I'm Jeremy Lambert, joined by one of the top names in independent wrestling. She'll be competing this weekend at the Jersey J Cup for JCW. That is on Saturday, February 11th. She's wrestling Charles Mason in the first round. In the first round. She is Billie Starkz. How you doing, Billie?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. I feel like I've messed up the Manson and Mason about 500 times when I've been talking about this show today.
Hey, his name doesn't matter anyways.
Billie, before we get into the Jacob stuff, I have to ask you about this. On January 25th, a man by the name of Robert Starkz Bellamy, known as some to Mouse, tweeted, "I just checked my kid's cage match. She fucking sucks. She's 3-9. Can you win some matches, kid? Like, I can't hashtag never lost if you losing." Do you have a response to this?
I've told my father to his face I'm trying. And I promise by the end of the year I will have a positive win score. I promise. We just started off the new year a little rough.
Does he, when you come to the back, does he just like have his head down and be like, what are we doing? Why can't we get the victory here?
He just gives me the silent treatment for a little while, and then he'll give me just trash online until I call him out for it.
What does it mean to have like this the support of your dad? And he's at all the shows. Where he might be driving wrestlers to the event. He might be staying at your house, things like that. He's obviously shooting a lot of the shows. But what does it mean to have the support of your dad for all these events?
Honestly, it's always been great for me. I always have a person to go to at the shows. And there's always somebody who understands what's going on in my mind. So I can be like, am I crazy, or is this what's happening, or this? So it's definitely great to have Mouse there for everything. And he also gets really cool shots and memories of like my wrestling.
So the J Cup this weekend, again, you have Charles Mason. How much do you know about him besides that his name does not matter? And what can fans expect from this match?
So me and Charles are very familiar with each other. I wrestled him at the first After Hours for JCW, and he was a creep. And became a very big stalker of me and my friends, and later went into a feud with Everett Connors, who has moved to Australia and left me all alone. So now I'm stuck to deal with Charles on my own. So it's been a while since me and Charles faced, and I was still the blue-haired girl back then, and I feel like I'm a completely different person now.
If you win this match, you get either Alex Shelley or Jordan Oliver in the second round. Do you have a preference of who you might be facing in that one?
I would say Jordan, because I'm more confident in my match with Jordan because of how familiar I am with him. And I feel like Shelly is somebody who is a very hard opponent to face so early on in the tournament. So I hope to make it as far as I can.
You were young. You have already gotten a lot of experience. You've already traveled to Japan and worked shows over there. Has there been a moment for you where whoever you were facing, you were like, it started to just click for you? It's like, okay, this is what I'm good at. Like this is what I can do for the rest of my life and make a living off of this.
Definitely my match with Yuka, while I was in Japan, was one of those moments for me. Like once I got into the ring, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to do this for the rest of my life. And wrestling just made sense for a minute. I was like, everything makes sense. I know what I'm doing. And it was just a fun fight.
I talked to Jordan Oliver earlier, and he had gone to Japan as well, and he told me about some experiences over there. And I know going to Japan was like a big bucket list. I've listened to some other interviews you've done, and it was a big bucket list thing for you. You said you were like studying to go to Japan. You didn't even know if it was going to be for wrestling or anything like that. You just wanted to go to Japan. It was something that you were looking forward to. What was that experience like? Not even so much the wrestling, just being over there and taking in that culture.
Honestly, it was so amazing. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. When I went to Japan, I had no culture shock. I felt like everything made sense, and I knew where I was going, and was like very confident. And then I came back home, and I had a bigger culture shock coming back home to the US because I was like, oh my God, everybody's so mean. What's going on? Which line do I get in?
This is what Jordan said. He said they were on the train and Schlack was like bleeding out of his head. And usually in America, you're like, okay, stay away from me and stuff. Some old lady just came over to him and was like, can we help you? Can we bandage you up? Can we get you stuff? And it was like, people are just
Everybody
very
just
friendly.
cares about everybody and wants everybody to be taken care of. There was so many times that I would just start like wandering around and people would be like, hey, do you need help? Do you need
Oh,
directions? And I was like, no, I'm okay. I'm just exploring.
did you go to Ribera while in Japan?
No, I had plans to, and I plan on my next trip to definitely go, but I did make it to Mr. Danger's and have one of the best steaks of my entire life.
See, this is the thing in Japan is everyone says Mr. Dangerous actually has the better steak, but Ribera has become wrestling lore, and so everybody gets the
Yes.
jacket. But the food, the steaks aren't actually the best in Japan.
It
You
was good enough for wrestlers.
you worked AEW Dark. You actually worked at the show I was just at in Dayton, Ohio, and you've worked a couple of AEW appearances, whether it be in Orlando or now traveling. What have those experiences been like for you?
Honestly, pretty amazing. I love the group of girls they have at AEW, and I've had an amazing time in the ring. And I also got the experience of wrestling Britt Baker, um, facing Yuka again, which was amazing. And then to do it in my home versus Japan was a great experience to have.
Any feedback from the coaches or Tony Khan or even some of the wrestlers while you've been at AEW?
Honestly, everybody is so supportive and they would come and give me feedback after the matches, things I can work on, things I can improve. And Tony has randomly popped up here and there, and he's honestly the most like awkward but nice human being you'll ever meet. So I'm like, oh my God, I can relate to this man, even though he's running around and I'm like, oh, do you need help? What's going on?
You kind of created another viral moment with Britt Baker as she was busted open during your match with her. What was the reaction to that? I mean, when it happened, and then once you saw it again online, and Britt is obviously she has no problem like playing into the blood and playing that up.
So, honestly, I was a little freaked out in the match when it happened because I didn't know, like, oh, she's bleeding. Are they going to cut the match? Do we have to go home now? Do we have to get out of the ring? What do I do? Because as soon as I saw blood, I was like, oh no. But as soon as like I knew things were good, I just kept going, and I was like, oh, okay, everything's fine. And as soon as we go to the back, she makes it to the back before I do, and I'm looking for her, like, oh my God, I want to say sorry, and she's already smiling, like taking pictures, and I was like, okay, I guess that means she's fine. And then she comes running back up, and she was like, oh, I'm good, thank you, good match, blah blah blah. I was like, oh, okay. Is your nose good? And she's like, oh, it's just fragile. It's probably my fault. I was like, oh, okay. I guess this is fine.
I mean, you got called back, so clearly it was all good, smooth over. If anything happened, it was clearly good. It's like bring Billy back. She's good. MLW, you just made your debut there in Philadelphia. What was that experience like?
It was honestly an amazing experience, and I got to debut with one of my friends, Kayla Cassidy, who's a girl I train with in Louisville, and she's honestly like such a great heel. I feel like it's hard to find someone I've been like so close to uh, counteract my baby faceness, and she's such a good heel, and us just like playing with our characters is so much fun together.
You just wrestled a friend of the show, a fellow Swifty of mine, Ali Albright, and she's kind of just getting started in wrestling. And you were kind of the ring veteran in this one. But what can you tell us about Ali and what it was like to sort of, even though despite your age, you have a lot of experience and everything, but being like a veteran, especially compared to her in that match?
I was definitely very excited to wrestle Ali, and it was one of her first ever matchups. And for me, I always get excited when I'm like the the veteran in the ring because I'm like, oh, I get to have fun. Because when like people are newer at wrestling, I feel like they're more creative and honestly more crazy. I'm like, oh, let's do some dumb stuff. I can convince them to do this. Hey, I have this great idea. So it's always fun for me. And then I felt like I loved being Allie's first opponent because of being part of like her getting into training and seeing her progress. She's honestly came such a long way, and I can't wait to see her progress even more. And I'm so glad to just have a match with her, and I hope she enjoyed it too, even though I beat the crap out of her. I was like, this is what you have entail.
Have you ever convinced anyone of doing something really dumb? You just went to them just like, let's do this. And they're like, all right, I'm going to trust you.
Literally all the time. Funny thing, the first, not the first, the second Red Velvet match I had in Lexington, the 100th episode of AEW Dark, it was the first time Red has ever done a Poison Rana. And I will say that was definitely my idea that I pitched. And I was just like, oh, blah, 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 Poison Rana. And had no idea she's never done one before in her entire career.
That move looks, I fully believe you've pitched this. You do some crazy things, Billie. That move looks so tough to take. Like, you take it well, but there's a lot of people who do not take that very well.
It's just a handstand, just a little backflip into a handstand, maybe land on my head.
Just maybe land on my head, casually land on my head. It'll be fine. You need to tell other people how to take this, because some people, it's a
I yell at
landing.
Nick Wayne all the time. I swear he's going to be like 2 feet smaller because of how he takes bumps sometimes. I'm like, oh, I could never.
I have heard that you have helped Nick Wayne also with his homework, and you guys have been collaborating on homework, and potentially there have been cheating accusations thrown around when it comes to the homework.
I'm just making sure my friend passes high school.
So do you tell him like, all right, here's what's going to be on the test for this one? Or like, I've had this teacher before, this is all the answers you need to know here.
So Nick takes a class that I took like sophomore year of high school, and he's a senior this year. So I'm like, I've already done all of this stuff before. So like, here's my notes and stuff. Also, how it's algebra. Come on, man. And he's like, I don't get algebra. It's letters and numbers.
Right. I'm with Nick on this. It's supposed to be just numbers. When they start introducing letters, completely done.
See, I'm in like pre-calc this year doing IB applications and interpretation. So in my head, math makes sense with letters.
I don't even know what you just said. Pre-calculations and interpretations. These are not. That is not math to me. Is math your favorite subject?
Yeah, I think so. I also love like theater though, but I don't know if you count theater as a subject, but it's definitely one of my favorite classes.
I mean, I would imagine theater helps you with wrestling a decent bit.
Yeah, originally I started doing theater like freshman year to help with like promos and improvise like just emotions and stuff like that. And becoming like better characters and knowing how to read a script and do just all of the shenanigans that wrestling might make me do one day. So theater has definitely made me the character I am today in wrestling.
Is there anyone that you study when it comes to like wrestle, or when it comes to like promos and mannerisms? Because independent wrestling, it's the wrestling is always great on those shows, but it's not always a lot of time to do promos and of course vignettes and things like that. So is there anyone you study when it comes to that aspect?
So I definitely watch like Millie McKenzie. I love her energy and the way she speaks and like the character I can semi like relate to. And then Kylie too. I think Kylie has some really, really emotional promos that I've taken little bits and pieces from. And honestly, Chris Jericho, I feel like every time I've heard this man cut a promo, he always gets a reaction from the fans.
Did you get a chance to talk to Jericho at any of the AEW shows?
I have not yet. I don't think we've ran into each other.
You mentioned Kylie. I assume Kylie Ray. Is that who you're
Yes.
referring to? Okay. You wrestled her in 2019 and then haven't wrestled her since. Is that somebody like I'd like to get back in the ring with her?
I
Because
would
both of you have
love
grown a
to.
lot since then.
Yes, so much. I felt like it wasn't that long ago, and you said 2019, and that feels forever ago.
That was pre-pandemic. I mean,
I
a
know.
whole different lifetime ago.
I was like, this is a time I've forgotten about, but it feels so there. That was like, oh, I just had like a spring break. COVID felt like a spring break to me.
Oh, did you keep up with the school and everything during COVID? How was that for you?
So I actually was doing like NTI in school online during COVID. And I did it even during like the Florida Mania weekend. I was still online in class because my vacation didn't start until the week after Mania weekend.
How and then being having to do that and then not being able to wrestle during that time since really all the independent shows didn't start up again until like the fall. Like, how is that not having sort of maybe I would assume wrestling might be a little bit of a release and an outlet and a break from just schoolwork and stuff. Like, how is it going through all of that?
So I honestly found the cheat out of it. I broke into my training school like almost every day and was just training by myself. I asked my the owner of the building like, "Hey, can I have the keys to the building so I can go train?" And he was like, "I guess. Do you want to go train with other people because of COVID?" And I was like, "No, I'm just going to go to the building by myself and do blow up drills."
I explain to me what blow up drills are.
So it's just like sprinting, hitting the ropes, doing up and overs like 10 times. I would do bear crawls around the ring. I would do like high knees in the corner, brookside shuffles, like just a bunch of intense workouts.
So you're able to just stay in shape through that. Now, was there a practice dummy or someone you could kind of toss around
So
something you should toss around a little bit?
I definitely bought like my body pillow from my house and started using it as a test dummy. And we also bought a crash pad during the time of COVID. So I was practicing like swantons, jumping off the ropes. Maybe I can tight walk this rope and just falling, eating crap, and doing stupid stuff. I was like, oh, I want to learn how to do this move and would just constantly I was like, these ropes were not the greatest. They're like different sizes. So one rope would be here and the other one would be in so far and the other one back out. So it was just like, I can't hit these clean.
Wrestling with like stuffed animals and stuff when I was a kid was the thing. Just any type of stuff, and of course, wrestler or companies had their like brawling buddies that you could wrestle
Yeah.
with, and those are always fun to just toss around. So it's cool to hear that you just brought a body pillow. Use that as my opponent.
The
The
body
kids you work
pillow was definitely beating me up the entire time.
Let's see. Was the body pillow beating you? Do we need to put this on the cage match record?
Oh
And
no. Don't get Mouse going even more.
The kids you work with, do they know that you're involved in wrestling?
They do. We actually like randomly will watch some of my matches, and it's like the only thing I worry about is sometimes turning on the commentary. The kids love listening to it, but I'm like, I don't know what they're gonna say. I don't know if there's any curse words. I don't want to be in trouble. And I'm already like worried that I would get in trouble because it's wrestling and like violence. But I checked with my boss and she was like, no, this is cool. Just like keep it to a minimum of like no TV time too much. Like we can't let them only watch videos all day because they'll try.
Did they want to wrestle with you? They're like, hey, will you like toss me around, power slam me?
So when we go to the gym, we have like a gym part of the daycare, and I'll get out like the tumbling mats and stuff, and I'll like teach the kids how to do head scissors, and I'll body slam them on them. But they all love attacking me, so I'll just like play with them on the mats.
Once my kids learned that I was into wrestling, just come up to me randomly. Can you just power bomb me? I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not an actual wrestler. I'm not that strong, but they love just getting tossed around. Kids are just indestructible. Just
They are.
indestructible.
It's crazy. The scariest thing that I've seen at the daycare happen was this one kid just like he was chilling, playing with a toy. Another kid walked up, snatched the toy, and this kid just threw himself on like the hardwood floor. And I was like, because you could literally hear like the slam of his head. And I was like, oh my God, did this kid just knock himself out? And I just checked him. I was like, you okay? And he just stared at me. And I was like, okay.
One jumped into like my chin, and I'm pretty sure
Oh,
gave me like a concussion, and she just fine, just like walked away, all good, and I was just completely knocked out. He laughs
I
about it
definitely
now.
was a
Like,
troublemaker when I was a kid. I used to have like this reoccurrence of like an injury every vacation my family would take together. We would do like family vacations and I would somehow get hurt. There was one where I had like a softball like size of a black eye and they
oh
thought they
no.
would have to go drain it. It was from playing hide and seek with my cousins. We were running around upstairs and my cousin came up the stairs and I came across and he just
Oh,
headbutted me and I got it all in the eye and this man woke up with just like a red dot on his forehead and I just had this huge thing. And my mom was like, "That's disgusting. We had to go to the hospital." And the next day we went to Cedar Point and my mom's taking me to ride roller coasters and I'm looking like I'm abused.
I was like, did you get like weird looks of like what
Oh
happened
yeah.
here?
There was one time this guy in line turned around and he was like looking with his kid. He goes, "If you act up, I'm making you look like her." And I just
Oh
started
my
laughing. I
gosh!
was like, "Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh, what
gosh!
is happening?"
I I don't know if there's a follow up to these. I don't know if that's something you want to say in public. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
if that's something.
And I definitely heard it too. I was like, "Oh my god, you're so mean."
Yes. Oh no, I hope that kid is okay. Like, just years later, I hope that kid is doing okay because that sounds horrible. Oh my gosh. You mentioned Cedar Point. Like, are you a person who enjoys the theme parks, the roller coasters, things like that?
Oh my god. I love theme parks so much. I've been to Kings Island like 3 times now and the Kentucky Kingdom, which is like a local one in Louisville, more times than I can count.
Getting back to wrestling, last one here for you. The Collective is coming up, WrestleMania weekend, GCW. Always run a bunch of shows that weekend. Anything you got your mind set on, your sight set on, like I want to wrestle this show, I want to wrestle this person.
I wanna do as many shows as I can, but there's definitely some things I'm really, really excited for. I definitely wanna be part of the TJPW show, and wrestle some of the Japanese women that are coming over that weekend. I would love to be part of Jimmy's thing, but I don't know if that's a possibility in my schedule, but I'm gonna do as much as I can that weekend.
Are we gonna see Billy Bloodsport?
Ooh, I don't know if the world's ready for that. I got a
Billy,
little bit of boxing and kickboxing, but that's about it.
I appreciate you joining me here. Let everybody know where they can find you at and what you got coming up.
So you can find me at Billie Starkz, Billie, and the Starks is Starkz. And that's on all of the social media. If you want to check out any of my merchandise, it's at bigstarksbrand.com. And for any updates on upcoming matches and merch, just check my Twitter. I'm usually posting about it.
And she is going to be in action this Saturday for the JCW, GCW, the J Cup. It is back. It is on Fight TV. She's going to beat Charles Mason, whatever his name is, going to move on to face either Alex Shelley or Jordan Oliver in the second round. Billie, again, I appreciate the time today. Good luck with everything coming up that you got going on. And guys, thanks for joining us here on the Spotlight here on Fightful Overbooked.